Mike Harris with What in the Law podcast, back to talk about what's in the news and on a lot of your minds, the new indictment against Donald Trump. What is it and what does it mean? There are 4 counts and 45 pages, but basically it all comes down to one single allegation that Mr. Trump tried to steal the election. The 4 counts are more or less the same thing, but charged under different statutes and some specific differences. But basically, they are charged in a way as to give different options for what Mr. Trump could be guilty of. The first count alleges that he was conspiring to defraud the United States, essentially by trying to reverse the election results by working with other people, namely some attorneys, and trying to get those election results overturned. That is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. The second count is conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, namely the certification of the vote. That is punishable by up to 20 years. The third count is almost the same thing. That is obstruction of the proceeding, of the certification of counting the vote. That is basically saying that he personally engaged in actions to stop that, and that is punishable by up to 20 years. The fourth count is that he allegedly tried to prevent people from voting, essentially by overturning results in certain states and taking away the vote from, allegedly, the majority of people who voted for Joe Biden. That is punishable by up to 10 years. Now, because this is a federal indictment, these read a lot differently than you might be used to seeing on a state level charge. It gives a lot more description. And the very first sentence, the first thing I noticed is it said that Mr. Trump lost the election. If he's defending on that he won the election, that's all he has to do is show his evidence there. But that is where the very first allegation comes from, that he lost. It goes on to describe several other things. And some of the basics of what they're saying he did come in paragraph 10. And I'm going to summarize this because this is kind of the basics of what they're trying to say. First, paragraph A is that he tried to get various states to overturn the results by getting legislatures to vote for alternate electors and overturn those and throw out those results. And in some cases, get officials to not count those. The next paragraph, B, is specifically about the plan of getting fraudulent electors, allegedly fraudulent electors, in 7 different states to try to get them to vote for Mr. Trump instead of Mr. Biden. Paragraph C is talking about the Department of Justice presenting states with allegations that there was fraud and that they should present these false electors as an alternative. Paragraph D, or the fourth big summation of what they're saying, is the attempt to get Mr. Pence, or the Vice President Pence at the time, to not certify those results and to send it back to the states. And then finally, paragraph E talks about Mr. Trump and others trying to get Congress to vote not to certify the result. And it specifically talks about them doing this in the face of the mob on January 6th. So this is just a little bit of a summation. This does not obviously go into what the evidence for or against is, but there's a lot of different things that you could always read in this indictment. It's pretty easy to find, and we'll see what the evidence shows and what happens with this case. So it's a little bit of the indictment, and there'll be more episodes that might more directly affect what goes on in your life in the future on What in the Law podcast.